This story has two paths, and only your choice decides the fate. Listen carefully and choose the revenge.
I stared at the text message on my phone, reading it 3 times to make sure I understood correctly. "You're not welcome for Christmas dinner," my daughter texted me. No explanation, no apology, just those 6 words that felt like a knife sliding between my ribs. I sat down on the edge of my bed, the phone still glowing in my hand, and felt something inside me go very quiet and very still. This was not the first time Emily had dismissed me, but it would be the last time I let it happen without consequence. Let me take you back so you understand how we arrived at this moment. My name is Margaret, and I am 62 years old. I raised Emily alone after her father died when she was only 3. I worked 2 jobs for 15 years, a day shift at the hospital as a nurse and weekend shifts at a retail store to make sure she had everything she needed. I paid for her private school tuition by taking extra overnight shifts that left me so exhausted I would sometimes fall asleep standing up in the shower. I saved every spare dollar for her college fund, while I wore the same 3 pairs of shoes until the soles wore through. When she got accepted to an expensive private university, I took out a second mortgage on my small house to cover what the scholarships did not. I told myself it was an investment in her future, that one day she would understand the sacrifices I made. Emily graduated with honors and married a man named Derek 3 years later. Derek came from money, the kind of family that owned multiple properties and took European vacations twice a year. I liked him well enough at first, though I noticed he had a way of looking at my modest home with barely concealed disdain. At their wedding, which I helped pay for despite Derek's family having far more resources, I was seated at a table in the back corner with distant relatives I had never met. Emily explained it away by saying the seating chart was complicated and that Derek's mother had very specific ideas about how things should be arranged. I swallowed my hurt and smiled through the entire reception. After they married, things changed gradually, then all at once. Emily started canceling our weekly lunch dates, saying she was too busy with her new job at Derek's father's investment firm. When I called, she would answer with an impatient tone, as if I were interrupting something important. I told myself she was just adjusting to married life, that she would come back around. Then they bought a house, a sprawling 5-bedroom property in an exclusive gated community 40 minutes from where I lived. I was not invited to see it until 3 months after they moved in. And when I finally visited, Emily gave me a rushed 10-minute tour before saying she had a conference call she could not miss. I kept trying. I sent thoughtful gifts for birthdays and holidays. I offered to help with anything they needed. When Emily mentioned they were renovating their kitchen, I wrote her a check for $10,000, money I had been saving for my own retirement. She accepted it with a distracted thank you and never mentioned it again. When I asked to see the finished kitchen months later, she sent me a single photo via text with no additional comment. Then Emily got pregnant. I felt a surge of hope that maybe this would bring us closer, that becoming a mother herself would help her understand everything I had done for her. I knitted blankets and bought baby clothes and called regularly to check on her. She answered about half the time. When my grandson Oliver was born, I drove to the hospital immediately, but I was made to wait in the lobby for 4 hours before being allowed into the room for a brief 15-minute visit. Derek's parents were already there, holding the baby, cooing over him. I was handed Oliver for exactly 90 seconds before Derek's mother said he needed to go back to Emily for feeding. Over the next 2 years, I saw Oliver exactly 9 times. 9 times in 2 years, despite living less than an hour away. I would ask to visit, and Emily would say they were busy, or that Oliver was sick, or that it was not a good time. I would suggest coming to them, offering to help with childcare or cooking or cleaning, anything to be useful, to be needed. She always had a reason why it would not work. Meanwhile, I saw photos on social media of Derek's parents spending entire weekends at their house, of family vacations I was not invited to, of holiday celebrations I only learned about after they happened. I started to notice a pattern in how Emily spoke to me during our increasingly rare phone calls. She would mention expensive purchases casually, a new car, a boat, a timeshare in Florida, and then in the next breath complain about how tight money was. Once, she even suggested I might want to help them with Oliver's private preschool tuition, saying it would be a wonderful way for me to contribute to his future. I was living on a nurse's pension and the small amount I had managed to save despite giving so much to her over the years. I sent her $2,000 I could not afford to spare. She never acknowledged receiving it. The breaking point should have come a dozen times before it actually did, but I kept making excuses for her. I told myself she was stressed, that young mothers have a lot on their plates, that Derek's family was probably pressuring her in ways I did not understand. I kept hoping that if I was patient enough, loving enough, understanding enough, she would remember who I was and what I had done for her. Then came last Christmas, 1 year before the text message that finally woke me up. I was invited to Christmas dinner, but when I arrived, I realized I was an afterthought. The house was full of Derek's extended family, at least 20 people, and there was no place set for me at the dining table. Emily looked flustered when I pointed this out and quickly set up a folding chair at the far end, squeezing me in next to a coat rack. During dinner, no one spoke to me. I tried to engage Derek's mother in conversation, but she gave me one-word answers and turned away. I watched Emily laugh and chat with Derek's sisters, watched her serve his parents first, watched her bring out a special dessert she had made specifically because it was Derek's father's favorite. When I asked if I could spend some time with Oliver after dinner, Emily said he needed to go down for a nap and that I should probably head out soon anyway since they had another gathering to attend that evening. Another gathering I was not invited to. I drove home in the dark, crying so hard I had to pull over twice because I could not see the road. But I still was not ready to give up. I called Emily a week later and suggested we start a tradition, just the two of us, maybe a monthly brunch or a weekend visit. She said she would think about it. She never brought it up again. I sent birthday cards and gifts. I texted photos of things that reminded me of her childhood. I got brief responses or none at all. I was becoming a ghost in my own daughter's life, fading a little more each day. Then this year, in early December, I decided to be proactive. I texted Emily asking about Christmas plans, saying I would love to see everyone and spend time with Oliver. She responded 2 days later saying they were still figuring things out and she would let me know. A week passed, then another. I texted again, gently, saying I just wanted to make sure I knew the plan, so I could bring the right gifts. No response for 3 days. Then came the message, "You're not welcome for Christmas dinner." I read it over and over, looking for some context I had missed, some previous conversation that would make this make sense. There was nothing. I called her immediately. It went to voicemail. I called again an hour later. Voicemail. I sent a text asking what I had done wrong, begging for an explanation. She responded 6 hours later with a message that made my blood run cold. Derek and I have decided we need to prioritize our immediate family right now. His parents will be there because they contribute meaningfully to our lives and our household. We need people around us who add value, not stress. Please respect our boundaries. I sat with that message for a long time. People who add value. As if the 20 years I spent sacrificing everything for her counted for nothing. As if the money I had given her, the love I had poured into her, the life I had built around being her mother meant less than whatever Derek's parents provided. I felt something crack open inside me, something that had been holding back a flood of anger I had not let myself feel. I did not respond to her message. Instead, I opened my laptop and began to look through my files. I am a methodical person, a trait that served me well during my nursing career. I keep records. I keep receipts. I keep documentation of everything important. And over the next 3 days, I compiled a very interesting folder. I had bank statements showing every check I had written to Emily over the years, the college tuition payments, the wedding contribution, the kitchen renovation money, the preschool tuition, smaller amounts for birthdays and emergencies, and just because I added it all up, the total came to $147,000. $147,000 I had given her over the course of her adult life. Money I had earned through backbreaking work and careful saving. But I had something else too, something I had almost forgotten about. When I took out the second mortgage to pay for Emily's college, I had her sign a promissory note. My financial advisor at the time insisted on it, saying it was important to have documentation even between family members. The note stated that Emily would repay the loan, $48,000, once she was financially stable and earning a steady income. She had signed it without hesitation, probably thinking it was just a formality, something that would never actually matter. I pulled out that promissory note and read it carefully. It was legally binding. Emily had been working at a high-paying job for years now. She and Derek owned multiple properties and expensive vehicles. They took lavish vacations. By any definition, she was financially stable, and she had never paid back a single dollar. I felt something shift inside me, a cold clarity I had not experienced before. I was done being the understanding mother, the one who accepted crumbs and called it love. I was done being dismissed and devalued. If Emily wanted to treat me like a creditor rather than a mother, then I would act like one. I called my friend Janet, a retired attorney who had worked in family law for 30 years. We had been friends since nursing school, and she was one of the few people who knew the full extent of how Emily treated me. I explained the situation and asked if she would look at my documentation. She came over that evening, read through everything, and looked at me with something like admiration in her eyes. "Margaret, you have an airtight case here," she said, tapping the promissory note. "This is legally enforceable. And given her current financial status, a court would absolutely rule in your favor." "What would that look like?" I asked. "You could sue for the full amount of the promissory note plus interest. Depending on the judge, you might even be able to make a case for some of the other financial contributions as loans rather than gifts, especially if you have any documentation showing they were intended to be repaid. At minimum, you are looking at recovering $50,000 to $60,000, possibly more." I felt a dark satisfaction settle over me. "What else?" Janet smiled. "Well, if you really want to make an impact, you filed a lawsuit right before a significant event. Something public. Something that would cause maximum embarrassment. Do they have anything like that coming up?" I thought for a moment, then remembered a post I had seen on Emily's social media. Derek was being promoted to partner at his father's firm. There was going to be a big celebration dinner in mid-January, a formal event at an expensive restaurant with all the senior partners and their families. Emily had posted about it excitedly, talking about what dress she was planning to wear. "Yes," I said slowly. "There is something." Janet and I spent the next 2 weeks building the case. She helped me organize all the financial documentation, drafted the legal complaint, and filed it with the court. The lawsuit named Emily as the defendant and outlined the promissory note, the amount owed, and the years of non-payment despite her obvious financial ability to repay. We requested the full amount plus interest, which brought the total to just over $60,000. The court date was set for late January, but the initial filing and summons would be delivered in early January. Janet, who still had connections in the legal community, arranged for the summons to be delivered to Emily at her home on January 10th. Derek's promotion dinner was scheduled for January 15th. I did not contact Emily during this time. She did not contact me either. I spent Christmas alone, which hurt less than I expected. I felt focused, purposeful. I was not doing this just for the money, though I certainly could use it. I was doing this because I needed Emily to understand that actions have consequences, that you cannot treat people as disposable and expect no repercussions. The summons was delivered on schedule. I know this because Janet had arranged for confirmation of delivery. I waited for Emily to call or text, but there was nothing. Not that day, not the next. I imagined her reading the legal documents, her face going pale, showing them to Derek. I imagined the panic, the anger, the scrambling to figure out what to do. 3 days after the summons was delivered, my phone finally rang. It was Emily. I let it ring 4 times before answering. "Hello, Emily," I said, my voice calm. "What the hell is this?" she shouted. Her voice was shrill, panicked. "You are suing me? Your own daughter." "I am recovering a loan you agreed to repay," I said. "You signed a legal document. You have been financially stable for years. You have not made a single payment. That was for college. That was a gift. You are my mother. The promissory note says otherwise. And if it was a gift, you should not have signed a legal agreement to repay it. This is insane. You cannot do this. I already have. The court date is set for late January. You will need to appear or send legal representation. There was a long silence. When she spoke again, her voice was different, smaller. Mom, please. This is going to ruin everything. Derek's promotion dinner is this week. If people find out about this, it will humiliate him. It will humiliate me. His family will. His family will what? I interrupted. Think less of you? Exclude you? Treat you like you do not matter? That would be terrible, would it not? You are doing this to hurt me, she whispered. No, I said. I am doing this because you hurt me repeatedly, and I am done accepting it. You made it very clear that I only matter to you if I add value. So I am collecting the value you owe me. I do not have $60,000 just sitting around. Then you will need to figure something out. Sell one of your cars. Take out a loan. Ask Derek's parents for help, since they contribute so meaningfully to your life. You are a monster, she hissed. I am your mother, I said quietly. And you forgot that. The lawsuit stands. I will see you in court. I hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking, but I felt powerful in a way I had not felt in years. The next few days were silent. Then, on the morning of January 14th, the day before Derek's promotion dinner, I received a call from an unknown number. I answered cautiously. Mrs. Margaret Winters? A man's voice asked. Yes. This is Richard Ashford, Derek's father. I think we need to talk. So Derek's family knew. Good. I am listening, I said. This lawsuit is causing significant distress for Emily and Derek. I understand you feel you are owed money, but the timing of this is clearly intended to cause embarrassment. I am prepared to offer you a settlement. $25,000 paid immediately if you drop the suit. The amount owed is $60,000, I said. The amount you claim is owed. A court might see it differently. $25,000 is a generous offer for what amounts to a family dispute. Then I will take my chances with the court. And Mr. Ashford, you should know that I have documentation for every dollar I am claiming. The promissory note alone is ironclad. There was a pause. $40,000. Final offer. You drop the suit today. Sign a non-disclosure agreement and stay away from Emily and her family permanently. Something hot and sharp twisted in my chest. Stay away permanently. They wanted to pay me to disappear from my own daughter's life. No, I said. I will see you all in court. I hung up. An hour later, Emily called again. She was crying. Please, Mom. Please do not do this. I am sorry, okay? I am sorry I uninvited you to Christmas. I am sorry I have not been a good daughter. Just please drop the lawsuit. Derek's entire family will be at this dinner tomorrow. If this comes up, if anyone knows about it, it will destroy his reputation at the firm. You had weeks to apologize, I said. You only care now because there are consequences. What do you want from me? She sobbed. I want what I am owed. I want you to face what you have done. And Emily, I want you to understand that I am not someone you can just erase when I become inconvenient. I never tried to erase you. You told me I was not welcome for Christmas. You said I did not add value to your life. You took everything I gave you and treated me like a burden. So yes, you did try to erase me. Now you get to live with the consequences. She was still crying when I ended the call. The next day, January 15th, I did something I had not planned on doing. I got dressed in my nicest outfit, a navy blue dress I had worn to Emily's wedding, and I drove to the restaurant where Derek's promotion dinner was being held. I did not have an invitation, but I was not planning to go inside. I just wanted to see. I parked across the street and watched as people arrived. Derek's parents, looking elegant and self-satisfied. Derek's siblings and their spouses. Senior partners from the firm. Men in expensive suits with women in glittering jewelry. And then Emily and Derek, pulling up in their luxury car. Emily looked beautiful in an emerald green dress, but even from a distance I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way she kept glancing around nervously. They went inside, and I sat in my car waiting. I was not sure what I was waiting for, but I felt like I needed to be there to witness this moment. About 40 minutes into the dinner, my phone buzzed. It was a text from a number I did not recognize. Is this Margaret Winters? It asked. Yes, I replied. Who is this? My name is Carolyn Pierce. I am one of the senior partners at Ashford Investments. I am at a dinner right now where your daughter and son-in-law are present. I just received some very interesting information about a lawsuit you have filed. I think you and I should talk. My heart started pounding. Someone at the dinner knew about the lawsuit. Someone was asking questions. I am available to talk, I texted back. Can you come inside? I would like to hear your side of this directly. I hesitated for only a moment. Then I got out of my car, crossed the street, and walked into the restaurant. The private dining room was at the back, and I could hear the sound of conversation and laughter as I approached. A woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and an expensive suit was waiting in the hallway. She extended her hand. Margaret? I am Carolyn. Thank you for coming. How did you know I was nearby? I asked. She smiled slightly. I did not. I took a chance. But I am glad you are here. Come with me. She led me into a small side room off the main dining area. I need you to understand something, she said. Richard Ashford is a colleague, but he is not a friend. He has been making some questionable decisions lately, and I have been looking for a reason to push back on his influence at the firm. When I overheard him on the phone earlier today talking about a lawsuit and a settlement offer, I got curious. I made some calls. I found out about your case, and I think you have been treated abominably. I stared at her. Why do you care? Because I do not like bullies, and because Richard Ashford has been using his family connections to protect his son-in-law from scrutiny for too long. If Derek is married to someone who defaults on legal debts and treats her own mother like garbage, that reflects on his character. And character matters in this firm. What are you suggesting? I asked. I am suggesting you come into that dining room with me and tell your story. In front of everyone. My breath caught. You want me to confront them publicly? I want you to let people know who they are really celebrating tonight. Derek is being promoted to partner. That means he represents this firm. If he and his wife have been exploiting you financially and emotionally, people should know. I thought about Emily's text message. You are not welcome. I thought about years of being dismissed and devalued. I thought about the $147,000 I had given her, the sacrifices I had made, the love I had poured into a daughter who could not be bothered to make space for me at her own table. Yes, I said. Let us go. Carolyn smiled, and it was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting for an opportunity and just found it. We walked into the dining room together. The conversation did not stop immediately, but it faltered as people noticed a stranger entering. Emily saw me first. Her face went white, then red. She half stood from her chair, her mouth opening but no sound coming out. Carolyn raised her hand, and the room fell silent. I apologize for the interruption, she said, her voice carrying easily. But I have just learned something that I believe is relevant to tonight's celebration. This is Margaret Winters. She is Emily's mother, and she is currently suing Emily for $60,000 in unpaid loans. Margaret, would you like to explain? Every eye in the room turned to me. I saw Derek's father stand up, his face furious. I saw Emily sink back into her chair, tears already streaming down her face. I saw Derek looking between me and his father, panic written across his features. And I felt calm, completely, utterly calm. My daughter told me I was not welcome for Christmas dinner, I began, my voice steady. She said I did not add value to her life. This came after 20 years of me giving her everything I had. I worked 2 jobs to put her through private school. I took out a second mortgage to pay for her college. I gave her money for her wedding, for her house, for her child's education. $147,000 over the course of her adult life. When I asked to see my grandson, I was turned away. When I asked to be part of her life, I was told I was a burden. This is a private family matter. Richard Ashford shouted. You have no right to. She has every right, Carolyn cut him off. This is a legal matter involving your son-in-law's wife. If Derek is going to be a partner in this firm, we need to know what kind of person he has chosen to build a life with. Continue, Margaret. I looked directly at Emily. She was sobbing now, her hands covering her face. Derek had his arm around her, but he looked like he wanted to run. The $60,000 I am suing for is just the promissory note Emily signed when I paid for her college. She agreed to repay it when she was financially stable. She has been earning a 6-figure salary for years. She owns multiple properties. She takes expensive vacations. and she has not paid me back a single dollar. When I filed the lawsuit, her father-in-law offered me $40,000 to drop it and sign an agreement to stay away from my daughter permanently. They wanted to pay me to disappear. There was a collective intake of breath around the room. I saw several people look at Richard Ashford with expressions of disgust. "You are a liar," Emily screamed suddenly, standing up. "You are doing this because you are jealous. You are jealous that I have a good life, and you do not. You are trying to ruin everything because you are bitter and alone." "I am alone because you cut me out of your life," I said quietly. "I am here because you need to face what you have done. You took everything I gave you and you treated me like I was worthless. So yes, I am taking you to court. And yes, I wanted everyone here to know exactly who you are." Derek stood up, his face red. "You need to leave. Now. Before I call security." "Call them," Carolyn said coldly. "And while you are at it, Derek, you can explain to the partners why your wife is defaulting on a legal debt. Because that is what this is. A legal debt she refuses to pay." "The promissory note is real," another voice asked. I turned and saw an older man in a gray suit looking at me intently. "Yes," I said. "I have it with me, along with all the financial documentation. My attorney has filed everything with the court." "May I see it?" he asked. I pulled the folder from my purse and handed it to him. He read through it carefully while the room waited in tense silence. Finally, he looked up at Emily and Derek. "This is legally binding," he said, "and the amount claimed is clearly documented. Mrs. Winters has a solid case. She is my mother," Emily shouted. "She is supposed to help me. That is what mothers do. And daughters are supposed to love their mothers," I said. "They are supposed to make room for them at the table. They are supposed to let them see their grandchildren. You did not want a mother, Emily. You wanted a bank account. So I am acting like one." Emily collapsed back into her chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Derek looked around the room desperately, but no one was coming to his defense. Richard Ashford was staring at the table, his jaw clenched. Derek's mother had her hand over her mouth, her eyes wide. Carolyn turned to the room. "I think we all have some things to consider about tonight's promotion. Character matters in this firm. Integrity matters. And I am not sure we are celebrating the right people." She turned to me. "Margaret, thank you for coming. I think you have made your point." I nodded, took my folder back from the gray-suited man, and walked toward the door. As I passed Emily's chair, I stopped and looked down at her. "You are my daughter, and I will always love you," I said softly. "But I will not let you treat me like I do not matter. The lawsuit stands. I will see you in court." I walked out of the restaurant, got into my car, and drove home. My phone started ringing almost immediately, but I did not answer. I felt lighter than I had in years. The lawsuit moved forward. Emily tried to fight it at first, but her attorney told her she had no case. The promissory note was ironclad, and my documentation was thorough. 3 weeks before the court date, she agreed to a settlement. $60,000 paid in full, plus my attorney's fees. But the real damage was already done. Derek's promotion was put on hold pending a review of his judgment and character. Several partners had expressed concerns about his family situation and whether it reflected poorly on the firm. Richard Ashford's influence took a significant hit, and Carolyn Pierce was elevated to a more senior position. Emily and Derek's marriage became strained. I heard through mutual acquaintances that they were fighting constantly, that Derek blamed Emily for ruining his career, that Emily blamed me for everything. Their perfect life was cracking apart, and I had been the one to swing the hammer. Now I sit here months later, with the settlement money in my bank account and a choice before me. The story has reached its climax, but the ending is not yet written. And I realize that you, the one who has listened to everything I have been through, you have a choice to make as well. You have followed every step that led here. You have heard about the years of sacrifice, the betrayal, the lawsuit, the public confrontation. Now you must decide what happens next. 2 paths appear before me, and I am going to let you choose which one I take. If you want me to take the money and walk away, to let Emily live with the consequences of her actions while I rebuild my own life in peace, choose the first ending. If you want to see what happens if I use this moment to try to rebuild a relationship with my daughter, to see if something can be salvaged from the wreckage, choose the second ending. Your choice will decide how this story ends.